Hi folks. Welding gases. What are they used for? Why are there so many different kinds? That's what I'm trying to answer in this video. Please bear with me, this might be choppy as hell. Argon, you're going to use it primarily in your TIG welding, but if you do any aluminum work, whether it be MIG work with a spool gun or TIG work, you gotta run it, because you can't have anything contaminating your aluminum welds. The two in the back are primarily what you're gonna see doing steel work. You're gonna see either an argon blend of argon CO2. There are other blends out there, but the primary blend is a CO2 blend with the argon. This one is a C25 mix. That means that it's 25% CO2 and 75% argon. You got 100% CO2, and the orange tank here is what they call a tri-blend, which is 90% helium, 7.5% argon, and 2.5% CO2. Why would you run this? This is primarily for stainless steel wire feeding. What do I mean by wire feeding? Anything that you're gonna pull out of a MIG gun, that stainless steel wire, such as a 308 or a 309, requires a tri-blend gas. Now, your argon CO2 comes in many different blends, but the primary ones you're going to see out there that the welding supply stores normally stock are your 75-25, which is the most common mixture out there. You got an 85-15, and you've got a 90-10. This is a blended gas. Why, as a hobbyist, would you use this instead of this? Okay. Both of these for the hobbyist are going to work. Let me put that out right now. They're both going to work. They're both going to lay down a weld. They're both going to prevent porosity. Why, as a hobbyist, would you want this? Arc stability is the main factor in wanting an argon blend. As a lot of us professionals know, when you first get started, you tend to wander as a beginner, and you don't even notice it. You really don't until you flip your hood up and you look at it and it's like, oh, that's not the direction I wanted to go. This is kind of like having training wheels. It takes a lot of the arc wander out that you put in, where CO2 does not. Now, okay, if you're in a fab shop, most of the time you're going to see a blended gas. Why do I say most of the time? Because they know that it runs so much better But if you're in a fab shop or any sort of heavy industry that requires what they call a gas shielded flux core, which gas shielded flux core is usually a gray wire. And it's completely different than your standard copper plated MIG wire. Why as a company would they buy straight CO2 over the blended? It comes primarily down to cost. You can get one of these filled for $10 versus 25 for this. And that coincides with the pricing of the wire. Flux core wire is usually about $6 a pound. Standard copper plated MIG wire is between $2 and $2.50 a pound. Now, this stuff you can get on a 1 or 2 pound spool, depending how they package it, which for most guys, they're gonna burn maybe one of these a month. Now, if you're one of those guys that burns through more than one of these a month, maybe you want to step up to the bigger box. Well, okay. Bigger box, bigger price. Because the next size up is a 10-pound box. The $2.50 still applies. $2.50 times 10, $25. Flux core, the smallest roll you're going to find it in is a 10-pound roll. And no, they're not going to spool off 2 pounds at the welding supply store for you. So you got to buy it by the 10-pound roll. That's a $60 roll of wire. Now, you're not going to see this in the hobbyist world. Flux core is mainly heavy industry and other things. So getting back to gases, because we're going to cover wire in a different video. This blended gas and this straight CO2, will it hurt your welder going between the two? No. It will not hurt it at all. Now, most welders that come with a regulator on them, they're set up for this style thread with the taper in the inside, female thread on the tank side. The CO2 tank on the valve has male threads. So you gotta buy this piece. It's a converter. They sell them at the welding supply stores. I've even seen them at some of the hardware stores. They convert the male threads of the valve to the female threads that you'd find on other tanks that would go to that regulator. Why don't they package this with it? Because really they want, when they know that at a welding supply store, when you ask for gas and you're a beginner, they're normally going to want you to start off with this, a blended gas. And it has to do with the fact that the blended gases do help out with arc stability, and they also help out with spatter. And for people that have not been welding, they usually get scared of the spatter, and this is where fighting against psychology right off the gate is not the greatest thing to do. So, I've got a machine that'll run all four of these gases. It's called a MIG machine. It'll do what they call GMAW, gas metal arc welding. Now there's several different types of that, but it'll do all of it that I'd ever want to run with this. Now, as a hobbyist, I'm going to lean you towards your blended. Get yourself a 75-25 mix, and you'll be fine. For the weekend warrior, get a bigger tank if you're really into it. Your straight CO2, yes, it is cheaper, but unless you actually know what you're doing, you're going to be frustrated and you're going to start pulling your hair out. TIG welding. TIG welding requires an inert gas. Now, I don't have the blended gas for TIG welding because I personally don't need it, which is a 50-50 mix of helium and argon. Usually comes in a blue tank, and is a common thing you're going to see when you need more heat in TIG welding. For most jobs, you're going to stick with the argon. And most of the time, if you can't get it done with the argon, I suggest moving up to a bigger machine. Because different gas might help, but it's going to wear your machine out a lot faster. So, in conclusion, stainless steel, aluminum, steel. That's pretty much all you need to know from doing wire feed work. We'll get into different wires, and we'll probably revisit a lot of this in the wire video. But for now, this is what I have set up for you. I want to take this in baby steps so that everybody can kind of get along. And thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, subscribe.